Welcome to the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast, where we break down Bendis' iconic run on Ultimate Spider-Man, issues 1 through 160 in Earth 1610. And joining me today for the 100th time, the Centennial co-host, John Opat.
Thunderous applause. I was wondering if you were going to mention our 100th episode.
How could I not?
I know. Do you have anything else planned? Are there big theatrics that are going to go on throughout the episode?
Already today, everything's been 100 themed, right? So like for breakfast, I woke up, I had 100 donuts. After this, I'm taking 100 shots.
I love it. And aren't we supposed to say, now that I'm remembering this, we're supposed to have 100 nice things about Spider-Man planned out?
Oh. Well, I'm sure we've said one per episode, right?
I think he's got cool hair.
I think his head isn't round.
Okay, so that's two things. So,
Remember
if anyone wants to count, you can let us know what we get to.
Yeah. Well, we did a couple things last week too.
That's true. So how you been this week? How's your bracket, Zach?
I think I told you I didn't set up a bracket because I was in Swamp Fest,
God.
When everyone was making their brackets,
right.
I was going to the ER for a friend.
Love that for you.
And we did find out some more information about that in the past week. This is funny. I feel like we're like investigating 9/11 or the JFK assassination because we just keep finding...
Zach, you know as well as I do, we're not supposed to mention 9/11 on this podcast. Nobody thinks it's funny. You get comments in. You get comments from family. Can you just stop, please?
You're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Not going to open that can of worms.
Okay, go on though. It's like we're investigating some other conspiracy.
A different one, if you will. Yeah. We just keep finding new videos on Instagram that are different angles and different moments in the mosh pit. And we found one that we think conclusively told us what happened to my friend's foot because he didn't remember. I'm watching this video and this guy drives a riding lawnmower into the mosh pit. And my buddy comes in with no shoes on and tackles the driver and the riding lawnmower.
Okay, well...
And it falls over on his foot.
You guys are so stupid, man. Like, I don't...
Hey, he was a different person.
Even before you said he tackled it, that isn't even what I was thinking was going to happen. I was just thinking you guys were going to be hanging out and a lawnmower ran over his foot, on the wheel. And I was already thinking, like, it's so stupid to voluntarily put yourself in a situation where, like, this is happening. Zach, you must be catching me in a bad mood because I'm feeling like a fatherly figure here for you. But I don't want you going to these anymore.
Oh my God, you sound like my wife.
I just want you to be safe.
That wasn't my friend at that point of the night. That was the liquor acting. What's funny is I was
your friend Jim Beam, huh?
Truly, yeah, that was Tito.
Yeah.
What's funny is I was at his baby shower earlier today, and his mom came up to me, and I was like, "Oh no, what's she gonna have to say?" And she's like, "I think it's so fun and cool that you guys do your little road trips." And I'm like, "Really? That's okay."
I'm silently shaking my head for those listening. Good. Well,
what about
my bracket? That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, John, tell us about your bracket.
Really disappointing loss from Michigan last night. They had it pretty much the whole way, and then they really choked at the end. I had them in the Final Four, and obviously I'm a Michigan man. And then Purdue choked at the end also, even though they were losing the whole game, and then they came back and tied it, and then, just kind of had a brain fart at the end. But
so who do you have that's still in it?
Florida versus Duke is my championship. But okay. I don't care at all. It doesn't matter.
You're out of the money at this point.
Well, I mean, who knows, right? I guess if Florida and Duke both make it, who's my other Final Four? I think I have three number one seeds in the Final Four. So you never know what anyone else will have. Anyway, Zach, should we continue with our most famous segment, our weekly segment of what have I been thinking about Mr. Beast lately?
Oh my God. Yeah, let's do the Mr. Beast segment.
Let's do the Mr. Beast segment. I just continue to get more.
Is this happening organically, John, or are you like trying to find ways to talk about Mr. Beast?
No, dude, this is happening organically.
This is just catching your attention every week?
Yes, because I'm getting more and more upset as time goes on at these people who didn't take the $1 million to eliminate their team. I'm still stuck on the team captain thing. And I just kind of want to talk about it again, So but it's so stupid to turn down $1 million when you're just one of like a couple hundred people with the chance for $5 million. And anyway, that's it. That's just all I wanted to say. And none of and I don't think that they ended up winning. I'm not caught up with the Mr. Beast thing, so I don't actually know what's happening. I went golfing with the gym teacher yesterday who retired, and of course, I hadn't talked to him in a while, so I had to talk to him about the Mr. Beast show that was happening. I was like, have you ever heard of Mr. Beast? And he's like, no. And I'm like, of course not. I would hope not. And I explained who he was, and I explained the stupid TV show. And I said, so how much would it take you if you were a captain? And before I got done talking, you said $38.60. And I thought
what that is?
Funny.
That's his bill for his favorite meal at his favorite restaurant. He had that memorized.
That's actually really funny. That's actually really funny because he said, like, I'm getting Taco Bell. He goes, F you guys, I'm getting Taco Bell after this. And he's like this like gruff, retired gym teacher. It's just pretty funny. Yeah. Anyway, there you go.
The Mr. Beast games is for you what Evangelion is for me, where you're just grabbing every person in your life and trying to talk about it.
Except I've never seen an episode.
You don't watch the show.
Exactly. I only consume this episode through watching YouTube videos.
So, John, anything else happen interesting this week?
My volleyball team, we lost 2 heartbreaking games in 3 sets.
Come on.
We lost 2 heartbreaking back-to-back nights. We lost.
They're not going to win the city championship like that.
We've got a tough road ahead of us, but we are looking good. The team that we just lost to was the team that knocked us out in the Final Four last year and won the city championship. And we very much could have beaten them in that 3rd set. We just kind of choked. And, but unfortunately, there is one team that we lost to in our first game, and they're just so good that it's going to be hard for us to get good enough to beat them. It's not impossible, but we'll see. I really want to win, but I just don't know if we will. I like my team a lot. I want to win for the kids,
Sure, for the kids, of course.
So that happened, and I don't know. Nothing else really happened.
Okay. Should we get into our issues?
I guess we'll get into it.
All right. But first, a word from our sponsor, March Madness.
Every business says they're better. But the ones that earn and display the BBB seal back it up. It instantly identifies businesses that are committed to operating with integrity, honoring promises, and telling the truth. Makes you wonder why every business doesn't have it. So look for it, because it's looking out for you. That's why it's the sign of a better business. And find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
We are getting into Ultimate Doom number 3. This is written by Brian Michael Bendis, penciled by
Let me just say that I think it's cool that this is called the Ultimate Universe. Okay, that's 2 things. That's 3 things this episode. that are nice and fun about Spider-Man.
Very
Keep count.
Good. I'm going to say my nice thing is that this is written by Brian Michael Bendis, penciled by Rafa Sandoval, inked by Roger Benet, colored by Matthew Wilson, and lettered by VC's Joe Caramagna. And you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way.
Okay, I was about to say that's not really a nice thing. That's just kind of a statement. But then you sort of said a nice thing there at the end. So
any statement can be turned into a nice thing by saying I wouldn't have it any other way.
Exactly. Yep. I think you just proved that point.
Okay. So we open on a couple of pages.
Wait. I'm pulling it up, and I think I have something to say about the cover. This is like a different cover. This must be by someone else, because this to me looks like the just like Ultimates cover. You know, that's what it reminded me of right away.
Well, John, that's a very good point that you make. And you're right, because the cover art is by Brian Hitch, the guy who penciled Ultimates.
There you go. Wow. That's a good eye.
Well, it's on the credits.
Yeah, but I didn't see it.
Oh, right. Your eye was good.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you, John. Okay. So we open on a couple of strange panels that are just kind of atmospheric, right? They're just going place by place to different locations and telling us about them. So the first one, and they all are in bad shape. They all are like crumbling. The first one is Castle Doomsday in Latveria. And it says, a castle built in the 16th century by a Latvian noble, former home of Dr. Victor Van Dam, geneticist, deceased. Fun fact, even though Van Dam has already passed away, his AI programs were still working on his varied genetic experiments. Casualties 7. So that's interesting. The comic is called Ultimate Doom, and Doom is dead. He hasn't been in any of these. And the very first place we're shown is Doom's castle. And then we go to the Baxter Building, a 35-story office building in Manhattan. The 5 upper floors were formerly the headquarters of the Fantastic Four and former home of the United States military youth think tank that was once home to Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Victor Van Dam, and others. Fun fact, this is where Dr. Reed Richards first kissed a girl not related to him. He was 18. Casualties 3.
That's like a weird thing to say, right? That's a weird way to put that.
I was just going to say, they really didn't need to specify first girl he wasn't related to.
Dude, it kind of makes you think that he was kissing girls that he was related to, right? That was the first thought I had. I was like, wait, did he have like a girl? What are they talking about? And then it's the Ultimate Universe. So then I'm like, is this like a Scarlet Witch thing? Is this like a dig? And then finally my brain manages to get to what I think they meant, which is like, oh, he kissed someone, not his mom, you know, like on the cheek. But dude, it's a weird way to say it.
It's a very weird way to say it. Reed Richards is not beating the allegations on this one. I also think it's funny that immediately after that it says Casualties 3, as if that was the fallout of him having his first kiss.
Well, it kind of was, if you think about it.
It all started there.
Well, I do think by saying that fun fact, that's what they're supposed to be like implying, is like all of this did start with his like, because he's really only doing this because like Sue Storm broke up with him.
Sure.
I mean, we've talked about that, right? That's the crux of all of this, is he got dumped and he's like an angry dork.
Tale as old as time. A guy fumbles a bad and becomes a supervillain.
Yep. So I do think that that's what they're trying to imply.
Okay. So we go then to Stark Industries, Modesto, California, and it's the Howard Stark Bioengineering Laboratory and Research Facility. And it says, fun fact, Tony Stark offered Reed Richards a lucrative contract to take over the facility. After touring the grounds, Richards declined without giving a reason. Casualty 23.
Okay, so what do you think his reason was?
I think it just wasn't up to his standards. I think he looked around
but he's
it.
destroying it for a reason. I don't know. I think he like saw something and then I think,
It
he's
is
always
interesting.
thinking, that nerd.
That's what he does. They should have called him the thinker.
Should have called him the nerd, if you ask me. Shoved him into a couple more lockers in school.
Trust me, many tried. I do think it's interesting. The first two places we get are very important in just the Fantastic Four mythos and Reed Richards' life. It's his ops house and then his house. And then we just go to a Stark research facility that he got offered a job at one time and decided needed to get blown up.
Well, that's because I think that these are all the important places, because these are all the people that like Reed Richards thinks can like beat him, or like everyone that has information to like match his information or something.
Sure, threats to his supremacy.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, and I think you're probably right there. We go to Seattle Tech Biomedical Engineering Research Facility.
But I guess you're right in that the first two places are like big important places, and then it gets like kind of random. It's just like, oh, tech places, tech place number 1, tech place number 2.
Yeah, this place isn't even superhero related. This just made some Excellence in Biomedical Engineering Research Prize. Casualties 43. So he's killing a bunch of normal people here. We cut to Roxxon Industries. John, do you want to say it for the 100th episode?
Let's get our rocks off for the 100th episode.
There you go. This is
Get your special sock out, nerds. We're about to get our rocks off.
This is about to get good. Okay, so we cut to Roxxon Industries, and we see Peter and Jessica are there. They're watching it, and it says the largest industrial technologies broker in the world. Roxxon is considered a leader in commercial and military research and development. Fun fact, responsible for the first successful human cloning experiments. Casualties 58.
Because are these the people that cloned Spider-Man? Can't we never remember?
I think Bendis is retconning this. I think he's retconning his own work here, because it was like the CIA and Doc Ock that cloned Peter.
And maybe even S.H.I.E.L.D. Or maybe not.
It was not S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay.
S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't know about it until they did, and they were like, yeah, you can go ahead, Peter. You can be alone in a room with Doc Ock for 5 minutes and beat him up over this.
So Doc Ock so the CIA was doing it, so it was like the government?
It was the government, but it was a different government agency than S.H.I.E.L.D.
Maybe it was Roxxon related if we went back and looked.
Jessica seems to think so, but I didn't see anything.
Maybe after we finish this, we should do a second read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast.
We're running it back.
We'll catch everything we missed the first go around.
That is funny. Okay. This other place is home of Peter Parker. It says, fun fact, Peter's father was one of the leading geneticists in the country before his death years ago. Fun future fact, next year, Peter will take his standardized IQ test. He will get a 145. He is Spider-Man. Casualties 0.
Zach, there's so many inherent problems with IQ tests. They more are a measure of like socioeconomic status versus actual intelligence.
Yeah, I heard they were like...
It's interesting.
It's like measures your problem-solving skills, right? It's like puzzles.
Now, it also brings up a good point, because socioeconomic status is like a really good indicator for like intelligence also, because wealthier people can afford better schools, can afford like a bunch of other things, right? It's just
it's about resources.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with this when I started this.
I felt
145, that's probably pretty high.
Yeah, you were about to cook. I could tell there was like something in your brain about to happen, and you were like, never mind. All right. Last place, I promise.
This does get old.
It gets old, but
because all the fun facts are kind of stupid, right?
Yeah. But this was
in
the
every
one
single one. They're
though.
Like fun facts, blah blah blah.
Also, it's very strange to say fun fact at like simultaneous domestic terrorism happening all across the country.
It is. Right before we hopped on, I used the word fun fact to describe makeup testing on animals, and Zach was like, "You mean facts that are going to scar your students?" And we changed it to interesting fact.
So this last location that we go to is exactly what you're expecting. It's the Triskelion, probably the biggest threat to Reed Richards. And it's blowing up all over the place. We've seen this many times. The Triskelion just always blows up and then is fine again somehow.
Well, it's built to survive a nuclear war.
That's true. It says, fun fact, the structure was created to survive a nuclear and chemical attack.
Yeah.
Casualties classified. Dude, don't you hate that? It's just like Hearth Michelson and those guys.
Sweep it under the rug.
These employees are so dispensable to them.
It's part of the job, Zach. It's what they signed up for.
Yeah, I guess.
I become callous in my old age.
We can be the good guys, or we can be the guys that save the world.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, so Triskelion blows up. Sue Storm falls into the water in the bay, which is funny because this is like the second time that day she's been in those waters.
Dude, I can never remember what they're doing. They're like getting blown up, and she's creating a force field, and then Rick Jones is teleporting them, and it's like, whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. That's word for word what I had in my notes.
Yeah.
Including the and whatever. Yeah, so she saves everyone else who's in the water with her in her force field bubbles, and then she's like, Rick, teleport us out of here. And he's like, okay. And they go to Project Pegasus because they got to pop into Project Pegasus every 5 minutes in these issues. And they go in, and the blonde soldier from the very beginning of this story, who was talking to Mar-Vell, he's still alive. And we find out his name is Wendell Vaughn, who is usually Quasar. And he's alive, and he pulls his gun on them before recognizing Fury and Danvers. And he apologizes for failing them. He's like, oh my god, we lost control of the base. Everyone's dead. Reed Richards got all of our powerful stuff. And Nick Fury's like, this is bad. We should think about a truce or a surrender.
I mean, dude, this doesn't seem like very Nick Fury-like language to me.
It doesn't, and I think that's the point. I think if we think that he is always going to act like he has a plan and be cool and collected in every situation, and then this is the one where he's instantly giving up, it builds up the stakes. It tells us how bad it is that Reed Richards got everything here.
Does Reed Richards ever get the Infinity Gauntlet in the comics?
I haven't read the Infinity Gauntlet stories, you know. Webheads. If you've read Infinity Gauntlet or Infinity
Surely he
War,
has at some point.
Yeah. Does Reed Richards ever wield it? You're right, probably has. So Sue is like, that's not going to happen. We're not surrendering to a guy like him. And she says she needs Reed's Baxter Building files that they were just talking about before the Triskelion exploded, and a good lab. Mar-Vell says absolutely not, because clearly Reed has found a way to infect their technology with an extra-dimensional virus. And they're like, we would need a world-class high-tech lab that he doesn't know that's not affiliated with the Fantastic Four or S.H.I.E.L.D. And Wendell Vaughn says, oh, you mean the one 10 stories below us here? And both Carol Danvers and Nick Fury are like, the what? He's like, yeah, there's a top secret off the books lab right here. And again, John, this is something that Nick Fury didn't know about, and that's to show us just how secret this is. But I also don't like that.
But who's keeping this secret if not for the heads of the people running it?
I know.
That would mean that there's someone higher up than Nick Fury and Carol Danvers.
Well, I think the implication is that there was a previous head of S.H.I.E.L.D. who had started this. But then...
And Wendell Vaughn has discovered this secret.
Right. Like a private first class who's guarding the door knows about it.
This would have been better if it was something that Nick Fury was like, luckily, we've got a secret lab, that only I know about because I was here in the 40s.
That would have been better. That would have been a lot better if the guy who worked at Project Pegasus didn't know anything about it, and then Nick Fury just like walked over to a wall and just punched in a code on some thing, and like a secret elevator appeared.
If this was the real Samuel L. Jackson, that's what would have happened.
And there would be a spare eye patch down there.
Well, speaking of Nick Fury's eye patch, can't wait to see how this develops later on. Good
tease. Okay, so we cut to Peter and Jessica at Roxxon's building. And they say it's in Queens. I don't buy that. These buildings are far too tall, but you don't care about that. It's getting destroyed by the growing... Dude, I almost called this thing a testicle monster because I was just looking at my notes. It's getting destroyed by the growing tentacle monster thing that's just sprouting out of the building. And Jessica can't believe that this is happening again. And it's good Spider-Man stuff. They're saving people left and right. They're quipping. And then Peter sees Doc Ock getting crushed beneath the creature. And he runs and tries to save him. And Jessica screams at him to let Otto die. And Peter says, "We have to help him." And Jessica says, "That's Dr. Octopus, and he's done nothing but try and ruin our lives." And Peter yells, "We help everyone." And he grabs Otto's hand and starts pulling. John, what do you think about this?
I think that Otto might be a little bit too irredeemable here because I felt nothing when Peter was like, "We help everyone." And I was like, normally that's the type of thing that might get me a little emotional, but I was like, I'll let him die. I would prefer they let him die. And it's also interesting that our spider people do not have the same opinion on this since they're clones.
I was just about to say that. It's so fun for me to dissect any instance where what Jessica does or thinks and what Peter does and thinks diverge from each other. And I like that she hates Doc Ock way more than he does because she has this like deep personal connection to him that feels, like violating to her. Whereas Peter is like, I punch a bunch of guys on a regular occasion. He's just one of those guys.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder if Peter would do the same for Norman Osborn.
That is interesting. I also thought this was an opportunity for us to rehash like the Invincible argument, right? Where in this instance, he's being very much like Mark most of the time, where he's like so idealistic. And then she's the realistic one. She's kind of being the Oliver when they're dealing with the Mahler twins. And it's interesting.
No, because Oliver up the Mahler twins. he exterminated them.
That's what she wants to let happen to Doc Ock,
No, there's a big difference between letting someone die and actively punching through their face.
Is there, John? Let me introduce you to the trolley problem.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
I think the trolley problem is also... The trolley problem is also, isn't it like you pull the lever and one person dies, but if you don't pull the lever, 5 people die? So it also has its own mathematical, like how much is one person's life?
But it's
what's the active task of taking one life versus the passive task of letting 5 lives die? That's still different than punching through someone's head.
Well, put me on record as saying I think she should punch through Otto's head.
Because they also put themselves at risk by trying to help him. That's a whole nother layer to this.
That's true.
Yeah.
God, they're so heroic.
Will they help everyone, Zach? And it brings a tear to my eye for one.
That's a good superhero line. All right. Meanwhile, back at Project Pegasus, Nick Fury and Carol Danvers have a moment. Everyone's kind of standing around having their conversations, right? Because Sue
kiss.
Oh, dude, I wish. I'm shipping the two of them. Honestly, after this series, I think they would make a cute couple. But everyone's just kind of standing around except for Sue, because Sue is like the smart person who's doing lab shit, and everyone else is just has a second to breathe.
Well, she always was smarter than Reed.
That's what Reed said, yeah. In a terrible line that we thought should have been changed. And Carol's like, it's killing me that I didn't predict Reed Richards was going to turn evil and I wasn't able to stop him. And Nick Fury offers no comfort at all. He says, yep, you're going to feel that guilt in every quiet moment for the rest of your life. But he says, she's still in charge. So
it's funny. It is funny when you think about it. Oh, wait, he's talking to Carol. I thought this was Sue. But it is funny to think about that, like, he just did this because she stopped kissing him. It is. I like to think about my kids who are like 13 and have like these silly little relationships with each other and be like, which one would try to turn into a world conquering person if they stopped getting smooches from their crush?
So you're talking about Reed and Sue, not Nick and Carol.
Well, maybe if they dated and then things ended badly, maybe Carol Danvers would, try to take over the world.
Oh my God,
losing a love like Nick Fury would be hard.
Now that is a Marvel comic for you. What if Nick Fury went bad?
What if Nick Fury and Carol Danvers smooched each other?
But then stopped.
Who knows? Who knows
that made
what
him
would
go
happen?
bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
That would be a good one. Nick Fury using all of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff. They've probably done that. They've done everything at this point.
I bet Nick Fury is definitely the guy who is like out at a bar and sees a pretty lady and is like, you want to see some high-tech equipment that I can't show you?
Definitely.
Watch this. I'm about to teleport. Okay, so he says she's going to feel that guilt for the rest of her life, but she's still in charge, so she has a duty to stay focused and not think about that guilt until this is over. He's telling her to just compartmentalize it and stay locked in.
Which is fine.
That is. It's
Good
very
advice.
healthy. Yeah. And simultaneously...
You seem like you're joking, but isn't that good? You should compartmentalize, right? She's got a job to do.
Does she? I feel like everyone else has a job to do. Like, she's nominally in charge, but right now Sue is the one driving the plot.
I'm just saying. I think Nick Fury's doing great.
No, John, I think she needs to go to therapy about it, and I don't think it can wait until the end of this issue.
Well, I don't want to have another episode where we talk about therapy 15 times. So I think she should compartmentalize for now.
Okay. Just for now. We'll do that. All right. So Johnny and Ben are talking. And this is interesting because it's kind of a callback to the title of the series and the first
It's kind of too bad for Bobby that he kind of got kicked to the curb, right? He used to be in this group, but now we get a big story and Bobby's nowhere to be found.
Well, he's probably in New Jersey protecting Aunt May and Gwen.
Good for him. That'll sell a lot of t-shirts.
Okay, so Johnny and Ben explicitly compare Reed to Dr. Doom. This is the first time we've seen this, but they're saying, wow, Reed is Doom. Reed is an even better Doom than Doom was at being Doom. And Ben...
Is he, though? Doom. Oh, wait, no, it was Magneto that did that.
Right.
Yeah, Doom seems okay in my book.
I'd vote for Doom. I mean, I don't like the way he talks, but he's going to get things done.
I think it's cool that his butler and workers were dead for like 4 hours and he was still calling for them to like make him some food.
That is true.
He was like, guys, it's pretty chilly in here. Did someone touch the thermostat?
He goes outside. His whole country is frozen over.
Oh, again.
Okay, so Ben says that if it turns out Reed really did everything they think he's behind, Ben is going to kill him. And I'm like, what do you mean? If it turns out he is, he attacked Sue. You know he is.
But it could be an alien shapeshifter.
I suppose, yeah, they've got those. And Sue announces that she's found something. And she says Reed set up shop in a pocket dimension and has been teleporting these monsters into the real world from there. And she says she needs a better sample to track him. So she asks Rick Jones to take her to Roxxon. Or someone go to Roxxon. They need to go to Roxxon and
get their rocks off.
And get their rocks off. But then, once the rocks are off, they have to like cut a sample out of the tentacle monster. The testicle monster. And Peter and Jessica pull Otto out. She's like, I don't really want to be doing this, but she decides to help Peter. They get him out, and he's like, oh, thank you, boy. And Peter's like, shut the hell up.
Interesting that he only thanks Peter, but it is probably warranted because he could hear Jessica saying that they should leave him to die. But she did help.
I think he's thanking Peter for being the one to put his foot down and stand up for saving
I think
Otto.
Maybe he doesn't see Jessica Drew as an actual person.
That I considered that, but he has called her on multiple occasions his greatest creation or his greatest work. So I feel like in his own self-serving, self-absorbed way, he would say, I created a human life.
I hope he gets redeemed and becomes a hero, and he becomes Octopus Man.
Dude, how cool would it be if we got Ultimate Universe Superior Spider-Man?
I don't know what that is.
It's the run where Otto takes over Peter's body and becomes Spider-Man.
That seems bad.
No, it was pretty good. The point is...
But he's like a villain.
Well, he's doing heroic things. He's so smart. He knows how to do things that Peter wouldn't. And he's also ruthless, so he will do things that Peter won't. And he thinks that makes him the superior Spider-Man. He's going to be the best of all the Spider-Mans.
So what happens to Peter's consciousness?
Oh, he's like trapped.
Yes, so this is a villainous story.
It kind of is, but at the end, Otto realizes that, like, it doesn't matter if he's smarter and faster and better and more efficient than Peter. Peter is, like, at his core, a heroic person and is more fit to be Spider-Man.
Here's a thought experiment. If you could do that to, like, Elon Musk.
If I could be John Malkovich.
Yes, if you could be Elon Musk, would you do that? I mean, think of how much good you could do with all that money and your brain. Or you'd probably just become some selfish piece of shit like everyone else.
Well, I don't think his brain is like spectacular or anything. I just think he has
dude.
Money.
I didn't mean that. That's what I meant. I meant like
brain.
Your brain and his
bloated body and his bank account.
Yes.
Yeah. He would wake up the next day and I would have emptied all of his accounts. I would have liquidated all of his assets and the world would be a better place. You know?
It'd be like, because I'd have sent it to myself.
For sure. Yeah, I would send it to John and I'd tell John to put it into DraftKings and then we would have become the first trillionaires on Earth.
That's true.
We would have given away trillions.
That would have just been a funnel from Elon Musk to DraftKings.
We would have given away trillions, kept billions, and become the first ethical billionaires.
There you go. I love that for us.
All right. Where were we?
Dr. Octopus was about to become a hero.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, so Johnny and Rick come falling through a portal next to Peter and Jessica. So it turns out Johnny went with Rick. It wasn't Sue, but that's okay because this is Johnny and Peter's big romantic reunion. Johnny hugs Peter and says he's so glad they're okay. And John, I think this is very interesting because he is standing right next to, quote unquote, the hot girl that he made out with.
I thought of this too.
And he doesn't say anything. Neither of them interact with each other.
So there is a reason. There could be a reason for this because he made out with her as Spider-Woman, and she is not in her outfit at this point.
He's seen her without her mask.
What if they did the Spider-Man kiss where it's only half up?
No, he literally saw her pull her mask down, and he said, "See, I knew you were cute under there."
Oh. Yeah, I thought of that too. I'm like, huh. He did go for Peter, but I'd go for my bro before I went up to before I made a comment to the girl I made out with once any day.
Sure, but then you'd be like, "Oh my God, Peter, I'm so glad you're okay." And you, I haven't seen you in a while. You guys know each other?
I'm so happy you're here, baby.
What should really be happening right now is he's seeing the two of them standing next to each other and putting the pieces together because maybe they have the same face.
Maybe if Peter's mask was off.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyways, interesting scene. It makes me believe that he lied about them making out.
I hope that they all make out together because I think that they're both gay, right? Isn't that what we do on this podcast? I ship it.
Yeah, that didn't sound performative at all.
I think it'd make for an interesting story. What if Peter's clone and Johnny Storm all smooched each other?
You know what? There probably is Rule 34 online for that.
Oh, I bet.
Okay, so Johnny catches them up to speed and says they're going to find Reed and stop him. And Peter says that they're coming too. And Otto says yes, as if he was invited. And Peter's like, "No, not you." And Otto's like, "I'm a scientist, boy. I can help." And Jessica says Otto should be in prison. And Otto's like, "Reed Richards ruined my life as well. For all I know, my team is dead." And Jessica's like, "Good.
I love how much he cares about his team."
I know. I don't believe for a second that is weighing heavy on him.
I think he's a redeemed character.
Maybe. Let's see.
I mean, maybe. I kind of like to give everyone the benefit of the doubt until they prove me wrong, Zach. I guess that's just something about me. I don't know.
Well, that is a noble trait, but as a superhero, you would get killed in the first week.
Yep.
Anyways, I just think it's so funny. She's like, she saved him, but she does not hate Otto any less. He's like, "All my people are dead." She's like, "Good." That's not very heroic of her, but I like it because it feels like real, raw human emotions for someone that you hate.
Just to be clear, I was joking. I wanted her to let Otto die.
Well, yeah, so did I.
Okay.
And this is funny. Everyone's like, "This is a bad idea. Otto is a bad guy." But Rick Jones doesn't have time for all that talking and that yapping. And he makes the executive decision despite everyone telling him not to bring Otto. And he teleports all of them away and the issue ends.
Yes. And on the next page, it's the cover art for the next one. It says, "Next issue, Richard Von Doom."
We'll see if that sticks as a name.
I don't like it. I don't
either.
I don't like that they were like, Reed is the new Doctor Doom. it's like, no, why would that come to your mind? You know,
Also,
Dr. Doom's name was Van Doom, basically. You know, it wasn't just because he's a bad guy. There's plenty of other villains. You know, why can't he just be Reed Richards? And now they're like Richard Von Doom. I just don't like it. I think it's kind of like goofy.
It is. It's taking this is so okay. This is why I was not like 100% on board with saying that Bendis created the Maker, because he's definitely trying to do something with Reed being evil, but I think he's maybe trying a couple different things on for size. Like this very clear, heavy-handed Dr. Doom thing. And it's the departure from that and him turning into like something that's more unique to himself that I think Hickman did.
It would be interesting when we get to that Hickman's run, like just how much extra characterization there is, because for my money, Bendis is very clearly building towards like what he becomes in like the Maker. And I know we talk about this every week, and it feels like every week I'm like, Bendis should get credit, and you're like, well, it's kind of like both of them. And I don't know, it still seems like someone who is just like continuing a storyline. Like, I don't know, this feels pretty like Reed Richards going into like it just feels like a perfect story, you know?
Well, that's
so
good.
It feels like Hickman just like picked up where he left off, is what I'm saying.
He definitely did in some ways. I really.
So this is why
that.
It'll be interesting when we get to read the newer stuff and see exactly, you know, what type of changes there are.
Here's the thing: this is how comics should be, right? Like,
yeah, definitely.
It should always be a almost like
a
improv.
Transfer. I mean, like, no one's gonna write for 80 years or something, you know, or like, you know, even 20 years. They aren't gonna keep on the same story. Everyone wants to do new things.
Right. It should be a yes and, right? Everyone's telling the same story. Everyone gets a sentence or two to add to the story, and then the very next person gets to take what was written before them and try and make the best of it. And this is like a golden example of that occurring.
Yeah. So what do we give this issue?
Also, one more thing about where it says Richard Von Doom. His first name is Reed. They just did last name.
That's funny.
It's a very lazy moniker.
It's really bad. Doesn't sound good.
I'm glad it doesn't stick.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, man. I tried to find like the what worked in this issue, and theoretically it's whatever they're doing about the comparisons with Doctor Doom, but none of it feels very like tied together cohesively. You know, I liked that the first place we saw was Doom's Castle. The second place we saw was the Baxter Building. But for the most part, this one just kind of meandered. And when you're on your second to last issue of this storyline, I really needed a lot more to happen. I needed something that definitively figured out why we've been following Roxxon this whole time. I needed all of the characters to have something to do. I needed this to progress the plot, and it just really didn't. And it's going to lead to a rushed conclusion. So I give this a 5 out of 10 dead Roxxon scientists.
Oh, poor guys. I kind of agree with you that when I'm flipping back through these pages, right? The intro went on a little too long, but I did kind of like it, seeing all the different places and, you know, seeing the fun facts. I think all of that would have been better if they just didn't put the word fun fact before everything, right? If they just put a text bubble with that knowledge on it, it is kind of interesting, you know, except for Reed's incestuous relationship.
Yeah, agreed.
So, I mean, I sort of like that, even though we said it got old, right? It feels like we have seen Sue Storm, like, in a collapsing building, making a force field, getting everyone out so many times at this point. It's a little boring. I think she does it again in my issue, where it's like, okay, Sue made a force field. It just happens, right? They go to Project Pegasus. I don't know. You're right in that nothing too interesting happens. Then we get like the Dr. Octopus stuff. But I do think that's sometimes what the episode or issue before a finale is. It's like setting up the meeting with the big bad. So I still think it does a fine job of that, and I'm still interested enough in the storyline that I'm definitely going to give it higher than a 5. I think I'll give it a 7 out of 10 dead Roxxon employees.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's a missing issue. I feel like this was supposed to be a longer event, or the last issue was supposed to be double-sized or something. And then something went wrong in the scheduling, and they said, you don't have that runway anymore. Because this feels like it shouldn't be the second to last. There should be something else after it, and then we get the big confrontation.
Okay, well, let's get into mine then. And we can kind of talk, because we'll talk about it a little more in the first couple panels, I think.
Yes.
So, cover page, Ultimate Doom, issue number 4, same creative team. Zach, I love this cover page. I think Dr. Doom does not look like a twerpy little teenage nerd. He actually looks like a imposing adult man.
When you say Dr. Doom, we mean Reed Richards.
Oh my God, did I say that? They actually got me. That was completely, wow. I guess we should give it up for them if that happened, right? Because Captain America didn't make me do that. I was calling Captain America Falcon our entire review.
Right. They sold the concept to you.
I guess they did.
It could also be the fact that as you're
there's
looking
a big
at the
word
picture,
named Doom right above his head.
Doom is not even like a centimeter from his face.
Yeah. Which is obviously on purpose, you would think, because they want to plant that connection. That's what they're telling you, I think.
And it worked.
It did.
That's an effective cover.
God damn, I love this podcast. So we open in the negative zone, and Reed is kind of back to looking like a dork. You can tell it's a different artist, that Ultimates guy. Say what you will, but he does bring a certain cinematicness to these issues.
That is the calling card for Brian Hitch. That is like the best word to describe his art.
Is it?
Yeah, I think we've even said that when we read the Ultimates.
I'm so good at this job that I get paid in sponsorship money. Oh man, we should get a raise.
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Listeners, write in to the Better Business Bureau.
Cost of living increase for the podcast.
So Reed is at his main desk in whatever structure he's in. We'll call it a layer just for the sake of evilness. And he's monitoring all of those different places that got attacked, which is kind of a nice callback because I think Marvel says multiple times, he is going to be monitoring everywhere. We can't go to any of these places. A couple times people are like, we need to go here. And he's like, no, he's monitoring it. So it is kind of nice that, he is monitoring it. And it's also kind of fun that he has all of this technology set up through old technology that he has wired together, like iPods and old phones or boom boxes or something, or microscopes. And it's kind of a cool little callback to when he was a kid putting things together, out of household appliances. What do you think, Zach?
I do like that. I also like that what looks like maybe his first physical Maker helmet is sitting there on the table. And then he's also got a couple of things that look like it might, like this metal ball, made me wonder if that's one of the artifacts he got from Project Pegasus.
I think that is one of the drones in the Ultimate Power run. I think that's one of the drones that he sent in to the other universes. Or at least that's what that looked like, I believe, are those little balls.
God damn, dude, you are the best podcast host on
here.
I'm
pretty good at this.
You are really good at this.
Oh,
you're running circles around me.
You're making me blush. So Reed's doing his thing. He's monitoring. Then out of nowhere, Ben Grimm shows up behind them in his purple power suit. And he says, what was the name of our 8th grade teacher who tried to kiss me? And Reed says, Benjamin. And Ben throws his little Gilroy the Terrible things up into the air that are around him. And Reed asks how he got in. But before Ben... Yeah?
Sorry. A lot of inappropriate kiss talk in these issues.
Messed up, dude. This is so messed up if it's like a woman saying the same thing at all. That's like totally
Reed's kissing his cousins, apparently, and Ben is trying to get... is getting kissed from his teacher?
Yeah. Reed asks Ben how he got in there, and then he says, wait, I can figure it out. Sue could have gotten you in here if she had the right data. And this is... It's interesting how Reed's brain works, because he just has to know everything. Even when a question organically comes to his mind, he almost wants to figure it out himself before he gives someone else the chance to tell him the answer, which is a good quality. You know, he's very inquisitive. It's a quality I try to instill in my students.
But it can also be his own undoing, right? Because now he's distracted. He needs to be fighting his enemies who used to be his friends, but he's distracted with, wait a minute, how'd they find me here?
Well, obviously too much of this is a bad quality because it you know, he just has to know everything, right? That's a negative thing when you like have to know everything.
Right. He needs to compartmentalize.
He needs to go to therapy. The Maker needs therapy. Actually, you know what? The Maker probably is a villain. Had he just had a therapist when he was like 17 after this marriage got called off, dude, there's other fish in the sea, man. Where was I?
It would be funny. It would be very funny if that's where the story went and he was a perfectly well-adjusted adult. And then one day he reads in the magazine that she's engaged to Namor the Submariner, and that's when he snaps.
Like he got therapy and got okay, and then, or what would really make him snap is her getting engaged and or married to his best friend Ben. Now that's okay. Okay, so he kind of figures it out, right? He's like, oh, right, Sue could have teleported you here, and I knew that there was a growing concern for that. Oh, I should have thought about that more. But then he says, but how did you get in here without setting anything off? And Ben tells him he'll answer Reed questions when Reed answers his. And again asks him the name of the 8th grade teacher. And Reed says, Darlene the Dream Machine. And god damn, man, I wish she taught at my school. She's sounding pretty good. Except for her pedophilia, of course.
Sure. Darlene the Kissin' Teens.
So Ben is disappointed that Reed knew the answer to that question. Because by Reed knowing this answer, it means that Reed isn't a shape-shifting alien, which we talked about a little bit ago. It means it's really him. And Reed and Ben share a chat. And he's like, oh, you also sound like you didn't go crazy, which I was kind of hoping for. And Reed says he just sees the world better now. So they talk for a bit, and Ben asks him, so you see the world better now? And Reed says, I do, Ben, before Ben asks him to look again. And we get a full page splash art of all of our heroes, along with Dr. Octopus, who are currently running towards Reed Richards, ready to kick his ass. Is this Wasp?
What is she doing there? She shouldn't be there. Hold on. Let me Google something. I do think they might have, like, brought her back to life or something.
I told you that was going to happen. That's why Hank Pym fought so hard to, like, bring her to the Triskelion when they were getting attacked. I said, this must not be, like, the last we see. There must have been a reason for this. Because he was like, I have to get to her. And they were like, she's dead, dude. Don't worry about it. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Living status, alive, formerly deceased. Cause of death, killed by Blob, later resurrected by the Maker. This doesn't make sense. She should not be alive at this point.
Well, then we got him.
She will get alive later. I'm so good at talking. But she should not be. Oh, this is interesting. just got this little footnote in the wiki. Janet wrote one of her doctorates on the work of Otto Octavius.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we got him. I guess.
Also thought Hawkeye was dead, but who knows?
No, we weren't sure about him. He was like in a big building explosion.
Right. Which most people in this universe survive.
Yeah. So all of our heroes and Doc Ock are like going towards the Maker, and then we get like 2 or 3 big pages of them just like beating up the Maker and all of our favorite heroes fighting, and it's pretty awesome, I will say. I was having fun with it. I was kind of like, dude, this feels like a Marvel movie to me, like a good one, you know? The cavalry has freaking arrived.
Yeah, these are literally 3 full page panels, and only one of them has a single text box, and it just says, look again. And this is the kind of art that artists do. Like, this, A, could be cover art, but B, this is like the kind of art that artists do specifically to sell at Comic Cons for a lot of money, because people are like, oh yeah, I want the big splash page that you did that I remember that has all my favorite characters punching aliens.
And you know, you said you feel like there's an episode missing or an issue missing, but I actually really enjoyed the aspect of this that like kind of out of nowhere Ben shows up, and then really out of nowhere all of our heroes are there and they're kicking ass. I mean, it very much it felt like a really good, you know, good scene of just everyone showing up, and like you're like, I forgot about that. I forgot they were even going to come in.
Sure, it takes you by surprise just as much as it takes me by surprise.
And if they had put it on the cover, it wouldn't have, right? Or if we had an episode where they spent the issue gathering the heroes and being like, we're going to teleport in there and we're going to give him what for, well, then it wouldn't really feel so like, I don't know.
Right.
It wouldn't make me get my rocks off quite as much.
I'm realizing something. You have an inverse relationship. You hate when they, and this makes sense, but you hate when they put a character on the cover, like, oh hell yeah, the Ultimates are in this issue, and then they barely show up or they don't show up at all. But you seem to like when there aren't people on the cover, but then you still get those cameos in the issue.
Definitely. It's better that way, right?
Right. So Marvel, what we're saying is,
one of them is just used to sell issues and the other is actually good storytelling.
Yeah. Keep the cards close to your chest. We don't have to know everything from the cover, or be it a film, let's say the trailer.
Yeah.
It can be fun to discover some stuff
suck now
in the movies.
Because they tell us everything that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But that's a different issue. And personally, I like that there was a secret underground train with coins in the calculator where he was able to put the coins in and then go find a secret lab, and then his dad was not dead or something. I thought that was cool.
Who could forget the underground train?
And the Franklin Delano Roosevelt calculator coins.
What pissed me off?
Set to the song by Mumford & Sons or something like that.
Was it? Oh, man.
It was something. It was some band like that just dated it perfectly.
That is so 2014. The thing that I didn't love about those movies that I'm just remembering is there's just like a montage randomly of him skateboarding and just doing cool skateboard tricks.
Probably to Mumford & Sons or something. Oh, okay. So Ben was kissing his teacher. Reed's getting punched by Captain America. And Johnny is pissed. He fires a big fire blast at Reed, the biggest he's ever fired. And he says, that's for messing with my sister. And it severely burns up Reed's face. And now
I wish
why the Maker
I'm sorry.
It's always up when I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say real quick, you were talking about Captain America's punching Reed. I wish so badly they would have been meta enough to have him punch Reed Richards and say, What's that 4 on your chest stand for? France?
That
would have been a good callback.
Awesome. I love that. Oh man, thank you for bringing that awesome Captain America quote into my brain again.
FF. Oh, you mean France?
Is that for France forfeiting? So Reed's face is really burned. His hair is also totally burned off, which does come back later in the issue. So we got him again. And it's all this is all great. And Spider-Man, Doc Ock, Rick Jones, and Mar-Vell are looking for the Tech Command Center, while the rest of the heroes, Captain America's like, keep the fight here. We got to distract all the Gilroys and Reed. And it's just awesome Captain America stuff. This is just, we might only get him for a couple scenes, but I feel like I'm watching Steve frickin' Rogers in here.
This art is so cool. This is what this artist is made to do.
This is awesome. All of this is great.
For all the times we've said, I don't know what's happening here, but the art is really cool about it. I am glad they were able to pack in at least one big ass fight scene with every hero we can name. And just doing whatever.
And it's like, we might not know what's happening, but it reminded me of the portal scene in Avengers Endgame, because all the heroes came in. I kind of wasn't expecting it. And then they all just start kicking ass. And you don't have to be able to, when they're on screen for 2 seconds, be like, oh, that's this character and she's doing they're all just kicking ass, and it's fun.
Sometimes it can be that simple.
Sometimes it can be. And so Doc Ock, Peter, and Mar-Vell and all them, they aren't able to disarm Reed's thing. So they go with plan B, and they just want Rick Jones to teleport them and all of the tech away. And at this point, Reed has gone full supervillain from an aesthetic perspective. He's burned half his face off, one of his eyes is gone, and now he's ugly, which we all know makes him truly evil.
He's like crawling around on the ground with a burned face, like
he looks Anakin. Like Anakin. I hate you. God, you beat me to it by 1 second. I was too busy laughing. Oh, that's good stuff. That's good stuff, Zach. You're great at this job also.
Oh, thank you.
And Reed begins to panic. They teleport all of his stuff away. They go to some school ground. I can't remember whose school it was. Maybe it was Rick Jones. Rick Jones sounds like the name of a guy in a Dave Chappelle sketch. It just sounds like a fake name. I'm Rick Jones.
We need a used car salesman. What's his name going to be? I don't know. Rick Jones.
Rick Jones. Right. My name's Rick Jones, and I'm jonesing to give you a deal. Come on down.
Have you seen that video? Jones barbecue and foot massage.
Two incredible combinations.
He's like dancing with dinosaurs and filming this promo. He's like, bring on anything you can eat, anything edible. We'll deep fry it. If it can fit in our deep fryers, give it to us. We'll deep fry it for you.
Yeah, that's a deal.
And then our specialists will rub your feet while you eat it.
And that's a euphemism.
Ew.
Okay. Let's get back on track.
Yes, okay. About this battle, one thing that does piss me off, and I think this is where more runway to tell this story would have come in handy, is Reed Richards stole everything out of Project Pegasus. He has all of these tools at his disposal to like win any fight, and he doesn't even have one of them nearby to use. He should be using something that makes this a little bit more even, because right now it's fun to watch the heroes kick ass, but that's exactly what they're doing. They're kicking ass. He's not really holding his own.
Well, it's almost like, we're in the third act at this point. We already had the fight where he wins and our heroes have to regroup. Now we're in the fight where they've regrouped, right? It's time to win. But I did kind of think that too. I was like, Reed's getting his ass beat pretty easily. Like, this is the end for this story. Yeah. He doesn't have a secret weapon up his sleeve. They could have done a better time. Yeah.
For all the time we spent at Project Pegasus, him robbing the whole place and having all of these God cards, basically, it doesn't matter. It's not coming up.
Yeah, they could have done a better job of actually, like, explaining the artifacts at Project Pegasus, because I remember one of the guards being like, it's the Wand of Watum. I don't know what the hell it does. And it's like, well, it would have been nice to know what it does since we made such a big deal out of Reed stealing all this stuff, you know. You're right. He could have used something, or they could have just explained it more, but, you know, whatever.
If this was a Jonathan Hickman comic, in issue 1, we would have gotten data pages and flow charts explaining every artifact and what it does, and then it would
that would have been cool, because we specifically talked about, you know, the Hall of Easter eggs that they have, and a lot of them were like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. Right. Yeah. So Reed's freaking out. He says,
"Oh, sorry. One more thing. I just don't want you to get too far. I'm sorry. I keep interrupting.
Dude, do it."
He is speaking the Gilroy language, right? There is like a language that we can't understand with letters that aren't from our alphabet.
See, I've noticed them speaking it, but I never noticed him speaking it. But I kind of just brushed it over every time it was on the screen. I was like, this is fake.
He's like giving them instructions, and they're like responding, and we can't read any of it. But it makes me wonder, did they already speak this language, or did he create a language and teach it to these guys for the purpose of them serving him?
That's an interesting thought. I think definitely they already spoke the language, because if he was going to teach them a language, he'd just teach them English, right? I think he learned their language, which makes sense.
John. Way to be rational.
Well, when the doctor goes to other languages, he knows every language, right? There was even that one really cool scene in that episode we watched where he like learned their language just from looking at their numbers for, 30 seconds. And I was like, that's a cool intelligence power that it shows the doctor have, that he is so smart and he's seen so many languages. He can, everything's similar enough that he can learn anything if he just sees their numbers. So now we're way off track talking about Doctor Who, and I never even thought of that. But that's probably why Reed was able to learn another language so easily. He's just a genius.
Okay. All right. Continue.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I will not derail this conversation again.
Dude, I love it when you do, though. So that's why I do it to you when you're talking all the time. So Reed begins to panic. His eyes all f***ed up. I mentioned that. And he looks at Carol Danvers and he says, "No one wants to be my friend. They think I am unstable."
Wrong guy, John. Wrong guy.
Oh, sorry.
You had the other comic open.
That was my fault with the up face and the one eye. We need the other guy who needs therapy. But Reed is panicking. Yeah.
Conquest versus the Maker. Now there's a comic I'd read.
Reed would get his head annihilated, I think.
He'd
have to have time to prepare. Because if Conquest just showed up, he'd put a fist through him before he knew what was going on. But if Reed had time to prepare, then, I mean, there's nothing he can't do, right? Isn't that the point of this Reed Richards as the Maker?
Yes. He'd make, like, an elaborate puzzle trap that Conquest then would just try and run through all the walls to escape from.
That's interesting. God, we should write comics. Maybe one day. Maybe that's the natural progression of this podcast.
Yeah. Do you think our very close relationship with Jim Shooter can help us get a foot in the door?
I think it could. It couldn't hurt. There's definite that. We will talk about Ralph Macchio until he's on our side. So for the 9th time, Reed begins to panic because all of his tech was the only thing keeping the negative zone stable for them, and it got teleported away, remember? So without it, his lair begins to collapse, and he tells everyone they've killed themselves. And Sue does a force field or something, and they manage to board a shield helicarrier, and they all escape on the shield helicarrier as the layer collapses. And Ben tries to reach his hand out to Reed, a la Spider-Man reaching his hand out to Doc Ock, and he's like, there's nothing I wouldn't do to help you. But Reed refuses, and the place explodes, and our heroes escape. Dude, I probably skipped some potentially important stuff there, but that is, for as much as we were like, we don't have to know what's happening, it was awesome. These last like 6 or 7 pages are very much like, I can't tell what's, they're escaping on a ship, everything's exploding, and then Nick Fury's on the ship, and I can't tell what's happening, but we haven't gotten to that part yet.
Yeah. There's one panel that I just keep looking at, and it's like the one where there's the least going on, and it's just Reed Richards lost and adrift, floating in the negative zone, and he's got one arm that looks like a noodle, all wrapped up.
Well, I wasn't there yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay.
I thought you had said, like, they all get the hell out of there and they leave him there.
I wasn't quite there yet. They do leave him there. So they do escape, and then we're on the shield helicarrier with the crew, and Nick Fury's like, good job, heroes, and then he lifts up his eye patch, and a bright light appears from it, and then he jumps out of the shield helicarrier, and I didn't understand it. And then Carol Danvers offers Spider-Woman a job, and it seems like she accepts it. And then Ben and Sue are standing on a rooftop, and they're looking out on the Baxter building, and it's still black goo. And she tells him she loves him, and he says he loves her back, and they decide that they're going to get married, and they kiss in the sunlight. And elsewhere, Reed Richards floats through the negative zone.
Wow.
The end.
Okay, so you missed a couple of things.
Okay.
When Carol Danvers offers Jessica Drew a job, they're like interrogating Doc Ock, and Jessica like slams his head into the table, and he's like, I don't get it. I helped you people. I was a good guy. And they're like, yeah, you, buddy. You're still going to jail.
Yeah. Same thing we've been seeing with her and Doc Ock. That's kind of why I didn't mention it.
Yeah. And then Sue and Ben, that happened really suddenly, right? They started dating and got engaged in the same conversation.
Yep. Well, I mean, they've kind of been dating since the beginning of this whole run. That's how I think about it.
They knew they liked each other. They never had a conversation again.
Yeah. They kissed a couple times. You know, they had conversations while the other was passed out. We've just seen it so many times at this point. Even if they haven't talked to each other, it feels like we, as the reader, have been hearing about it for ages. So that's why I was like, I don't care about this either. Yeah, they're married. That's fine.
They're engaged. And it's interesting that she asked him.
Yeah. All in all, I'm going to judge this one well based on the entire run. And it seemed like it was a good wrap up. I had fun with it. We got some good fights. Reed looks f***ed up. You know, that's fun. I'll say 8 out of 10 dermatology products that Reed needs to use.
For his face now.
Yes.
Yeah. Do those eliminate scars?
I'm not sure. He could probably find some in some universe.
He could invent some.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. I want to read a Marvel universe where all these super geniuses are just making like incredible Neutrogena products.
I want to see Reed Richards pound the pavement selling his snake oil dermatology products.
But it's
door
real.
to door.
Here's the thing. It sounds like the sketchiest thing ever. But it actually, he's like made a miracle drug, and he's just selling it door to door, and everyone's slamming it in his face.
So what did you give this one?
I'll also give it an 8 out of 10 dermatology products from Reed Richards.
I like it.
This was a fun series. I like it. You know, I have some problems with it, but overall, I'll read it again someday. I don't care because it's good fun.
Yeah, and it does make me interested to see like where they go next with this overarching story. So, is the next person who picks this up Jonathan Hickman? Is this the end of this as far as like Bendis wrote?
I think Bendis will maybe touch Reed like one more time before Hickman gets his hands on him briefly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, is that it?
That's it. We've been on this run for a while.
Yep.
And next week, issue 101, we are back in Ultimate Spider-Man with issues 153 and 154.
Okay, wow, it's winding to a close. Soon. I mean, you know, there's still like 10 more.
Dude, yeah, I mean, very soon. No, not even 10 more.
Yeah, 1 through 160. So yeah, like 7 more.
Yeah.
I'll be excited to be done with it. It's been fun, but you know, it's been a while. I'll be excited to move on to a different overarching story. I just like the big stuff. I don't care about going back to high school with Peter, you know.
Yeah, you like the big comic book events.
I know.
I feel like the movies, and you can imagine the Avengers music.
I can imagine myself there, you know, like I'm an Avenger. Just kidding, but I do like that's true. But I do like the big things. I've enjoyed this run though. I don't want you to think differently. Okay, so what else do we have for the week?
I don't have anything. What do you got?
I know, because you didn't watch Daredevil this week, even though there were 2 episodes that came out, and they were both pretty good. I know last week I had some things I was complaining about. This week, these 2 episodes, they did a good job. You should watch it.
This is how bad I was this week. Not only did I not watch Daredevil, I didn't watch the last 2 episodes of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Oh, so you can't even tell me about that.
No, dude. I genuinely was not even home this week.
Well, we might not have anything else.
That's okay.
Which wouldn't be the worst thing because the basketball games are on.
John's got to watch himself lose money in real time.
I'm going to win.
Or win money.
Exactly.
That's right.
No, I don't bet, Zach. I just care because Florida is my team in the championship. I care about my bracket deeply.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, let me get our readout here. I don't have it pulled up. What's the jam of the week? No. Do you?
Yeah, this one just got released.
My jam of the week is that song by Mumford and Sons. It goes, home is wherever I'm with you. That song that I don't know if it's by Mumford and Sons, and I don't know if it was in the Spider-Man movie.
We'll say probably on both. Probably not, since you're just making fun of Mumford and Sons.
That's the one I thought of when we thought about the Spider-Man movie. Do I listen to what?
I'm trying to think. Judah and the Lion. Do you listen to them? Me either, but I got tickets to see them this week, and I don't know if I'm going to. They sing that song, Take It All Back.
I don't know that. I won't know any of these songs. Off the top of my head, at least.
Take it all back, take it all back. Take it all back just to have you. And then a little mandolin goes, ding, 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 ding.
Okay, so is that the jam of the week?
No, absolutely not. I probably won't actually see them. I just got free tickets. I'm trying to see if anyone does listen to them.
Okay.
My jam of the week is You Ominously End by Arm's Length.
I love it.
That just came out. That also has a mandolin, I think, or something.
I don't even know what that is.
maybe a banjo. It's got one of those like southern ass string instruments.
Oh, like Mumford and Sons. Yeah, I know them.
Like Mumford and Sons. Yeah, this is like Mumford and Sons if they were like emo or pop punk.
Okay. Well, that's a good one. Okay, you got anything else for the listeners?
Nope. That's it.
I don't either. Okay. No one wants to be my friend. They think I am unstable. That's the last thing I have from last week's episode. I
love your delivery of they think I am unstable. There's always some like awkward pause right before am.
It's
a weird inflection.
It's how he said it. I love how Conquest said it so much because it is so like matter of fact. And the fact that he said it looking like the most unstable person ever after he just like destroyed cities with his bare hands. I love that delivery of that line. I'm going to do it again for the listeners right now. No one wants to be my friend. They think I am unstable. You go and listen to that. That is what he sounds like.
Perfect.
Thank you, Zach.
Evergreen. That is a good way to end the 100th episode.
Love it. Oh my God, it is the 100th episode. Thank you to Ian Hickey for the music and Alyssa Seaman for the artwork. And thank you all for listening and leaving us a review for 100 episodes. That's pretty. If you're still listening after episode 1, man, thank you. I really do appreciate that. I know Zach does too. I'll let you jump in here and
don't speak for me.
Okay. Well, do you appreciate it?
No comment.
He does.
Yes, of course I do. Thank you, webheads, genuinely from the bottom of my heart.
Yes. You can find us, the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast, on Spotify, on Apple Music, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. And you can come and chat with us or leave us a comment on Instagram at First Read Podcast. Send us an email at firstreadspidey@gmail.com or find us on YouTube, the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast. See you next week, Webheads 101.